Right for you guys. So the first replay we're going to be taking a look at, of course, is Hyun versus Byul. This is going to be a ZvZ, which I think is something we haven't taken a look at replay reviews yet. But hopefully this will shine some light on this matchup just a little bit. And I try to choose games that are interesting to watch, not just like, you know, general droning and then roaches and kill each other types of games. But let's go ahead and load into the game here, and we'll be taking a look at this one right away. Of course, like I said, I always try to choose interesting games, but also games that will help you guys out in case you get into these situations as well. So we can see our two players are Byul and Hyun, and since it is ZvZ, we're going to be having the luxury of looking at it from both perspectives, so we won't just be focusing on it from just one side. So, Hyun's the red Zerg, Byul is the blue Zerg, and Byul is definitely known for his unique ZvZ stuff. This game in particular, we're going to be taking a look at a lot of the various timings that are going to be happening during the openers, as well as some interesting mid-game antics that's going to be happening from both sides, and kind of explain who gets the advantage and why they get that advantage throughout the game. And of course, I usually do kind of hybridize the casting and the analysis at the same time, so if you haven't seen this game, then hopefully it will be interesting for you to watch. So, what we see normally in the early parts of these games is just people will be stacking their drones just on the closer mineral patches here. That's pretty advanced, something you probably don't need to worry too much about, but it will net just a few extra minerals if you're able to do that. But of course in ZvZ, the big part of it is sending out your overlords and getting a good path of vision from your base to your opponent's base. So your first overlord is usually going to come up here and check to see if there's a hatchery down. Maybe even get far enough in here to see if there's a pool down as well. That'll get you the first little bit of information. But every subsequent overlord is going to be kind of drawing a line from your base to their base. So let's say we're the blue player, which is Byul, or rather we'll say we're the red player, I'm sorry, which is Hyun. Since the first overlord is going to come in here and see what's going on, they're going to see the hatchery. And by the way, it's hatch first versus pool first. Hatch first is a definite risk, but the overlords, first one's going to check to see what's going on. You probably sit it somewhere about right here, and then the second overlord is going to sit somewhere in the middle, third one about here, etc., 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 all the way to your base. So if there's a push coming out, you can see exactly where it is on the map, how much stuff is in it, all that good stuff. It'll give you a lot of information across the map, and the reason that people do that is because they won't have things like hydras or mutas on the map for quite a while, so you can get a lot of information all the way across the map. There's nothing threatening to kill it like Marines or Stalkers would in the other matchups, so that's why you want to do this in ZvZ. So, Byul taking the faster gas, Hyun also getting a reasonably quick gas as well, so speed timings really shouldn't be a factor here. A lot of times with your pool in ZvZ is if you go gas right before your pool, then you can get speed as soon as it's done, and having a speed advantage in this matchup is a pretty big deal some of the time. Especially if you're going for one of these big Ling plays where you just try to overwhelm them without them really knowing. Maybe you stack up some Ling somewhere here in the main to not let them know and send them all out at the same time. But Hyun going ahead and taking the hatchery as well. So he is going to be a little bit behind in terms of the expansion timing. Well, that's not the right tab I want. I want to see income. The income is going to be pretty much the same. So this is something I really criticize a lot as hatch first in ZvZ because it just doesn't give you enough of an advantage to be that worth it in most games. So the idea with hatch first is you want to go hatch first to prevent them from, or rather to try and get some sort of economic advantage. But you're going to be risking a lot of cheeses and stuff unless you drone scout, which is really rare. First pair of Lings on the way for Byul, by the way. But if you look at the income, he's only ahead by one drone. And is that one drone really worth that risk? I have to really say no. The only thing it will afford you is a little faster queen, maybe a little bit of extra larva in the mid game, but the differences are fairly negligible. Both players, by the way, opening Baneling Nest. This seems like a little bit more of a defensive Baneling Nest. Neither of these players are really known for cheesing really hard on two bases, especially going for some type of Ling Bane all-in. And Hyun going for the safer play, putting down a Spine Crawler as well. Both these players, let's take a look at their vision. They really don't know a lot. So I think both these players are just trying to estimate what they should do based upon what's going on in this game. Both of them putting down a spine here, realizing that the threat of an all-in is very real. And you'll note the positioning on the Baneling Nest. I really like it a lot more for Byul. So the Baneling Nest is kind of out here in front, the spine is right here, and then he can just tuck his queen right there, just so that if he gets all-in against a lot of Zerglings or something, it's a good place for her to sit. So you'll want to think about your building positioning, especially at your natural. partially for kind of walling off, but if you don't want to wall off and you'd rather go for Ling Bane, then you want to put these buildings in a position where you can kind of sit your queen somewhere and she'll be really protected by surface area. And by the way, the spine crawler was just cancelled by Byul because I think he just realized that Hyun has one up of his own. So there's no real reason, if somebody's being defensive, there's no real reason to put your own spine crawler down. So a little bit of a subtlety there. Both of them getting pretty fast layers here. So you can see this layer timing is very indicative of mutalist builds. So both of them on pretty much the exact same schedule right now. And the good thing for Hyun is that he's getting in here and he's scouting. So he sees the layer timing, he knows his own layer timing, he's thinking, okay, this is probably going to be Muta versus Muta. And I know people get into these kinds of games quite a bit if they opt for Mutas, and it's pretty silly a lot of the times. But you need to get into this situation, or rather, if you do get into this situation, you need to be thinking about, and there's a Spire, by the way, for Hyun. Spire should be any second here for Byul. There's no reason to go this fast of layer without a Spire. But the whole thing you need to do with this is you need to get really fast gas mining for one. For a second thing, you need to look for an advantage that's going to give you an edge in the Muta fights. So most of the time you're not just going to outnumber them with Mutas and win, especially if you fight at their base. So what you need to do is start thinking about how you're going to cancel a third base. So this is what's going to come up here. You really need to watch this Baneling micro, and there will be a separate video I'm going to make on this on my YouTube channel about it. So keep out for that. But if you can cancel your opponent's third and keep your own, then that's a really big deal. So Hyun's trying to get some damage on there. But there's just too many Banelings out here for Byul. Another thing this pressure does is it makes them build Banelings, because if they ever get overwhelmed or hit by a big Baneling hit, and they don't have Banelings on the field, then you're going to be at a big advantage. But the idea here is that you're forcing them to spend gas on the Banelings. Just running his Zerglings around, you definitely don't want to take a big Baneling hit here, so nothing too crazy has gone on thus far. But still good micro for both these players. But the idea here is that Hyun now has about 100 extra gas, to which he can put toward an upgrade right away. So once the Spire pops, he should start one of these upgrades right away. Carapace is usually the more popular one. And there we go. So he basically forced Byul to build Banelings, and he used the same amount of gas that Byul used on Banelings to build this +1 Muta Carapace. And if you have an upgrade on your Mutas and he doesn't, then you're going to be at a huge advantage, considering your Mutalist numbers are going to be pretty much the same throughout the game. So that's the way that Hyun is going to be able to break this stalemate here. If you're ever in a position where you're both doing the exact same thing, by the way, Byul now trying to be annoying with these, but the Mutas are going to be out to push this away anyway, so you can see the Hyun's timings are really favored here so far. But if you get in this situation, the +1 air armor is going to be a big difference maker, and you still have opportunity for little pokes like this with your Zerglings, just to try and see what you can get done. Now he's affirmed that there's Mutas are out, and if you're Hyun, you basically just want to wait until this +1 Carapace is done. You don't want to venture out on the map too far or get into a Muta fight too much until that is done, because you'll know that you most likely have an advantage in the upgrades there. And the very worst, you're down by a Mutalisk and still you have the upgrade advantage. I think you're still favored in that fight. So Hyun still trying to shark around, kill whatever he can, trying to get Overlords. If he can pick off a stray Muta, that'll be a big deal as well, so neither player losing any Mutas quite yet. Byul's realizing that he needs to start putting down Spore Crawlers. And this is the other side of Muta builds, is that Ling run-bys are a really big possibility, so you need to be looking out for opportunities with that. Byul getting a little bit desperate here, and now we can see the defender's advantage is huge in Muta versus Muta. So since the fight took place on Hyun's doorstep, he's going to be able to dictate the fight a lot more. These extra Mutas rallying up and the Queen set heading over is going to mean he's going to get great trades in this. So you can see the Muta count is actually 9-6 in favor of Hyun. And once this +1 Carapace finishes, then he's going to be at a huge upgrade advantage. And by the way, the Ling run by did a lot of damage here. 11 drones killed during the entire harassment. So this is a little different. I just wanted to kind of point out the differences in Muta builds. The idea with the Mutalist isn't to try and kill workers like it is with other builds. It's not to try and end the game. It's to try and get some sort of advantage, whether it's run-bys. If they're going Roach, you can use your Mutas just to defend yourself and switch into something else. Say like Infestor or Banelings or a lot of stuff like that is definitely viable if you start mixing in Hydralisks. But now that the upgrades are done and now that he's won that battle, yeah, GG. So I just kind of wanted to show that a lot of times you will get into these situations where you're on identical builds, but you need to find some way to break that identity. So the way that Hyun did that is he sent in the Zerglings to try and cancel this third base, which forced Byul to build about 4 or 5 Banelings he probably didn't want to produce. He didn't take a big Baneling hit, so that means he wasn't prone to counterattacks. Then with the extra gas, he got the +1 air armor, And Byul obviously made the mistake of attacking into Hyun when Hyun had more mutas and had the defensive posture, because I think Byul was getting a little bit desperate, realizing the situation there. So very well played there out of Hyun. I hope you guys enjoyed that game, and